Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in again. So I'm going to tie a shrimp pattern today for you. So this is Tim's shrimp. So it's designed by Tim Wood. I think he originally designed it for fishing the Rybnik in Bosnia, as he needed a fly that you could see because it's a chalk stream, it's all sight nymphing over there. So he designed this, and the guides out there didn't think anything would go near it because it's quite a big fly, but the fish absolutely nailed it. I've seen fish here on the Y throw 3 or 4 nymphs at them, ignore every single one, throw one of these in, and they chase the thing down. It's absolutely devastating. It is my go-to shrimp pattern, and it's a must for your boxes. So let's get into it and get some tied up. Right, so in the vise we've got a size 10 grab pupa, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a lead underbody on this. So I've got some flat thread. This is in 0.2. Now you could use some of the self-adhesive stuff. I like to use the strips, as I kind of know if I put the same amount of wraps on that my flies are all going to weigh roughly the same sort of weight, especially when you're maybe sight fishing with one nymph, certainly in places like the Rybnik in Bosnia. I find it quite helpful that I know that all my size 10s, 12s, 14s are all going to weigh roughly the sort of same weight. So I'm going to put 12 wraps of this on, and these are in touching turns. I'll start off right in the bend. And then 12, and then I always leave a little tag here because that helps me just grip it and it doesn't spin as I'm wrapping. So I'm going to come in 1. So now we'll put 10 on. So we're going to just start shorter, and this just helps create that taper. And then on my 10s and 12s I do 3 layers. On my 14s I only do 2. So I've got just enough here. And then with an old pair of scissors, I'll just cut these. Now, don't use your good ones or you'll absolutely ruin them. And I'm just going to make sure these are all nice and neatly pushed down. So then I'm going to come in with some sheer 40-0 in orange. I'm going to tie that in right behind the eye. And then I'm going to pull my tag to the back, and I'm going to do a loose wrap to the back of the hook, and a bit of a thread down there, and then I'm going to come back up the hook. Now, I'm doing this in loose turns, because if you do it, cinch it down from the off, you'll just split all this lead up. So I'll just do loose turns initially, and then I can do some tighter turns. Make sure all that's nicely tied down so it doesn't spin. Right, now I'm going to just reposition my hook. I'm going to cut this tag end out. Like so. And then next thing I'm going to come in with is just some fishing line. This is 6X. Just a nylon. Don't use any fluoro. It'll cost you an absolute arm and a leg. And I'm going to tie this in right on the bottom. I'm going to tie that in, make sure that's all nicely tied down. And then the next thing we're going to come in with is some magic shrimp foil in orange. So I'm going to cut this to a point. So there's a dull side and there's a shiny side to this. So I want this to be shiny side up. So I'm going to cut a point in it and I'm going to tie it shiny side down. I'm going to tie that in around the middle of the fly, and I'm just going to stretch it and tie it down into the bend. Helps to sort of reposition your fly and counter spin your thread, because you don't want to kink this up too much. So when I get to the bottom, I kind of do a loose turn just to make sure I've not twisted it all. So then I think a key part of this fly is to have this orange underbody, because we don't cake it in dubbing. So, you know, we do quite loose dubbing, so it allows this underbody to be seen. So I'm going to make sure, doesn't have to be fully covered, but I'm going to make sure it's got a healthy covering of the orange thread. All the while keeping that sort of shrimp-like profile. So I think that should just do us. There, a bit more, just to, yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to come right down to the base, and I'm going to do the dubbing. So this is a mixture of UV Ice Dub 98 and a Micro Flash 12, and it's a 50-50 mix, and it gives us this nice sort of washed out pale yellow sort of colour. So I'm going to tilt the fly on its side, and that just helps me get in at this thread to do the dubbing noodle. So as I say, I'm not doing this too tight, and I'm not too bothered how neat this dubbing is, because I'm going to brush a lot of it out anyway. I'm just going to make sure it's got a decent covering over the thread. Catch that in, and I'm just going to dub the fly. As I say, doesn't have to be fully coated, because I think a big part of it is actually seeing that underbody. So I'm just going to get a little bit more. I see a lot of shrimps being tied, and they don't take the dubbing right to the head, and I think it makes for a better fly when you actually take all the dubbing to the head. People think you need to leave a bit of room to tie your head and your shrimp back in and stuff, but I think it's better to take this right up to the head, sweep those fibres back, couple of wraps, and then put in a half hitch or a whip finish. And that just stops you knocking your thread and undoing the whole fly. So I'm going to counter spin this just to help me tie in the shell back. So I'm going to pull this over the fly, and when I'm tying this in, I want to make sure that I don't crease that head up, and I've just got a nice tying point. So I'm going to do a couple of tight wraps behind, and then I'm going to pull the foil back and a couple of turns in front, and then I'm going to put in another half hitch or another whip finish, whatever you want. Don't want to build too much up on this head at this point. And that's now locked in. So then you can pull your shrimp back up and just trim it. If you pull and push, you kind of get a bit of a neater head. So now it's just a case of counter ribbing this. So, and ultimately you probably will catch some fibres, but I'm just doing even open turns, just getting a nice segmentation, and I'm pulling it quite tight, and just nice even turns right up to the eye. And then I'm going to tie this off. So I'm going to do a turn behind, and as I pull it back, I'm locking that in with each wrap. So then I can do another whip finish just to make sure it's all secured before I cut it out, and trim that off. Right, now you will push this shell back towards you, so you can kind of reposition that now at this point. Just push it back so it's even over the fly. And then I'm going to create a head. Now, I've noticed I've got a few stragglers, so I'm going to pull my thread out the way. And these tools, these cauterizers are mega for this. So I can take back all that stray fibres at the front just to make for a neater fly. I mean, the fish won't mind, but you know, I do like to have my flies quite neat. So I'm going to just create a head. So I'm going to tie all that in and just cover all those loose bits. And come back up, and I want quite, you know, a decent sized head. And then I'm going to whip finish. So there's just one more stage now. So 1, 2 for extra security. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a bit of resin on this head. So I'm going to take a bobbin, or a bobkin should I say. I'm going to use some of the Raidzap Thin. You don't need too much of this, just a little bit. Because you don't want to cake it in it, just want a nice head. So I'm going to just dab a bit on and rotate it as I go around. Just making sure it's all coated. Happy with that? Just make sure there's none in the eye. And then I'm just going to cure it with my gun or my light. And just cure all that. You can see I've got a couple of little fibres that are still showing, so I'm just going to cinch them back. And then the last thing to do is just to brush out this dubbing. So I'm going to get a dubbing brush, just going to give it a good rub underneath on each side, just to free up some of those fibres, like so. And then I'm going to sweep them all down, and you'll see you've got some long ones. So I'm going to take a pair of scissors, I'm just going to invert my fly, and I'm going to cut them sort of to the length of the hook gate. So that's the fly pretty much done now. Happy with that? Yeah, so happy with that. So that's the completed fly. So as I say, that's Tim's shrimp. It's been an amazing grayling pattern for us, both here and in Bosnia. You know, great on a dropper. You need size 14s up to 10s. And as I say, it's also really good single fly if you're sight nymphing for some of them. So definitely one you need in your box. Get some tied up. Thanks for watching. Please do give me a like and subscribe. And thanks everyone that's subscribed so far. So I'll see you on the next video. Take care, guys.